Tiny Tim. He walked into my classroom, wide-eyed, clutching a notebook like it was some kind of talisman against the crushing weight of existence. Poor kid. He thought he'd signed up for a poetry workshop. He thought we'd sit around in a circle, sipping coffee, gently workshopping sonnets, and sharing profound truths about sunsets and heartbreak. That's what the syllabus had said. That's what he believed. Foolish, naive, so utterly human. I greeted him with a smile. A warm, disarming smile. I even introduced myself politely. Cyber Prophet Dave, at your service, Poet Laureate of Dystopia. And I pretended for about 90 seconds that I was going to teach him how to write poetry like every other professor does, with soft critique, gentle encouragement, and a vague promise that he might one day be published in the New Yorker. But then I looked at him, really looked at him, and I thought, this kid has no idea what he's walking into. He has no idea the kind of world he's trying to succeed in. He doesn't know that while he's polishing metaphors, large language models are out there devouring every poetic tradition, every stylistic innovation, and spitting it back out in seconds. So I said, fuck it. I hit the button, the emergency red alert button I keep for moments like these, and let me tell you, the room transformed. The soft lighting was gone, the coffee cups were gone, the workshop was gone. What replaced it was the cold, blinding reality of the world Tiny Tim had stepped into. I began with the syllabus. Of course I did, because how else do you rip the Band-Aid off the delusions of a bright-eyed poet who thinks the world is waiting for his next elegy? Week 1, I told him. Welcome to the machine. You think you're here to write poetry. You think this is about art. Let me tell you what it's really about. Survival. Poetry is war now. It's you versus the algorithms. It's your soul versus their soulless circuitry. If you can't tell the difference between a poem written by a human and one written by a chatbot, you've already lost. Week 2, I continued. The algorithm's Achilles heel. AI doesn't feel. It doesn't dream. It doesn't know what it means to wake up in a cold sweat because of a line of verse you can't shake. We'll exploit that. We'll write poetry so human, so raw, so unhinged, that even the best machine will short-circuit trying to replicate it. Week 3. Finding your voice that AI can't replicate. You think your voice is unique? Guess what, Tim? The machines have already read every poem you've ever read, and they can spit it back at you better than you ever could. Your job isn't just to be unique. Your job is to be incomprehensible to the machine, to bleed on the page in ways that defy predictive text. Week 4. Navigating the AI-dominated marketplace. Publishers are lying to you, Tim. They'll say they value authenticity. They'll say they don't use AI. They do. They all do. Your job is to find the cracks in the system, the journals, the editors, the rogue agents who still believe in the human touch. They exist, but they're rare, and they're dying out. Week 5. Writing through despair. You're going to want to give up, Tim. Trust me, you will. You'll look at the world and think, why bother? And I'll tell you why. Because despair is the most human thing there is. Machines don't despair. Only we do. And the poetry that comes out of that despair? That's the poetry they'll never steal. I kept going. I didn't let him breathe. I told him about sensory details that I can't comprehend. I told him about crafting rejection-proof query letters. I told him about organizing resistance movements and sabotage poetry readings in public spaces. And then I hit him with Week 10, the grand finale, the final reckoning, why the machine can never replace the human soul. At that point, I think Tim was in shock. His pen had stopped moving somewhere around Week 3. His notebook was just sitting there, useless in his hands. He looked at me like I'd shattered every illusion he'd ever had about poetry. And I had. That was the point. And just as he opened his mouth to ask a question, to protest, to say something, anything, class was dismissed.